Hello, everybody, and let's continue. And today I'm going to insert something I thought in the last few days, and before I forget. So let's talk about this. You can download it from the website. We talked about our forum is and print it so we can discuss it together. This is this graph. I put it closer so you can see it. Never mind the different colors because the shade, because the printer not very good. So basically, if it's color, the whole area is colored, and including these two and up, this here too. Okay, here. All right, here. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this picture today, and I hope you have it in your hand. If you don't have it, go back to record it and I mean download it and print it, so that you know what I'm talking about, and so it will make sense to you. All right? Okay. First, this is the topic continued from last time, and when I talked about actually a few times back about the inner restrictions of philosophy after it develops for so long, around 2,500 years, and since its initiation from ancient Greek time, from Homer's time, from ancient myths and religion, things like that, and started in philosophy and for humankind or civilization. The ancient Greeks did a good job on that, and now we see more and more signs its inner logic requires it's going to end, and because nothing big is produced for the last half a century, and since Wittgenstein and basically Heidegger, they all come to the end of development, and Heidegger talked about a being that's a circle from Parmenides, and Wittgenstein talked about a language that's just forms of thoughts. It's just some detailed policing rules, and no longer in the pursuit of truth, and no longer answer the big four questions ancient the Greeks raised. And later on, the structuralism and the post-structuralism, and everybody deals with language and the language alone, and nothing else, like French philosopher Jacques Derrida, it's text analysis, things like that. So nobody talk about philosophy anymore. Everybody become a linguist, and analyzing text, how to write well, how to write clearly, how to write intelligibly. Nobody cares, or nobody dare care about big questions. And philosophy used to raise till probably Heidegger, and that's a lot of thing. So in this sense, as in other fields of studies, like in physics, they come to the dark matter, and then no matter what they do, they haven't found even a trace of it, and spend billions of dollars, of course, already. But they didn't realize it's a turning point for science, for philosophy, even in the social part. There's many other things going on, Christian versus Muslims, the Western versus Oriental things, but that's not my topic. I'm not an expert on that field, so I'll just leave it there. But I just give you the sense that a lot of things coming to a crossroad. It's something we are going to take action. It's a moment we are going to take action. That's my point. Okay, in this picture, since I believe saying philosophy is dying, many people did that. I think as early as Kierkegaard and Nietzsche, and he said something like God is dying, and basically saying philosophy is like the same. Heidegger, of course, and later on many other philosophers. But mostly I know the analytical philosophy side didn't think that's true, and they said they made a big progress, inroads into analyze texts, make it clear. But the thing is, and I understand that, and I think it's a great achievement too. But the problem is when you wash a baby, the baby is dirty, and you cannot soothe the baby with the bath water. That's a problem. All right, the baby is clean, but the baby is gone. Okay, so that's a problem. Okay, so if you're saying, and philosophy is sort of ending itself, and well, what else is replacing it? Or don't we have any philosophical questions left? Or who answered it? You may raise questions like that. So this picture is about that. I'm talking about the relationship between philosophy and instancology. That's the point, okay? So that's what I'm going to talk about a lot. All right, before I start, and I remembered something about the being and potentiality, I called in Chinese Zai, and things like that. And some people ask me, is that not true that being is the basic of everything since ancient times, since Parmenides' time till Heidegger? Everybody talk of being as the basic of something. Well, why do you say there's a still underlying concept like a potentiality or becoming a being? And so you are sort of go against this concept. If there's nothing, how can that be? If there's no being, how can that becoming become? And as Hegel said in his Logic. Well, my answer is, in Hegel's Logic, when becoming, the concept is used in his initial triangle, the three big concepts, being, nothing, and becoming, it's one thing turns to another one. So from one thing jump to another one. So it is from something to something else. He calls becoming. All right. Another thing is, and when people talk about this concept of being as either Parmenides or Heidegger or Hegel, and I believe people forget one thing. Being underlies a concept of quality. If you don't name it being, that's a quality. How can you know that is being? If you deny being is a process, how do you know it's being? Being is something. Is that correct? Being belongs to something. Is that statement correct? I bet you will say yes, it is something. Okay, for anything which becomes something, it's a process. It has the quantitative part, according to Hegel. He forgets it himself when he said being is the first. Without quantity, without quantitative change, you just cannot say it's a being already. You cannot say that. It must emerge from potentiality into being, into existence. Because, first, you don't know it. Second, ontologically, something is in the forming. in the process of forming before it is a being. Okay, think about that concept. That's my interpretation, my understanding. So it's a little bit different from all the past and philosophers' take on being. And so maybe we can still discuss more about it. But my basic idea is, since I read the 5 categories in Instancology, my basic logic is being is not the most basic thing. Well, you cannot say a thing. It's because to become a thing, it's a process. It's a process to become a thing. Okay? Okay, let's just round up that part, and let's resume to the part of the topic about this picture, about this graph. All right. I numbered them. You can see from this one, I numbered them into 26 6 circles or squares or whatever. That's 26 parts. Okay. The number of parts, of course, started from after ancient Greek, Homer's time, like 800 years BC, and it's a pre-Socratic period, as in philosophy we always say. It started from like 600 something BC, like Thales, right? And the philosopher, the first one who knows a lot about math, about the detection of the movement of the sky, a lot of other things. All right, okay. He says the water is everything. From him started. Normally in textbook we say after him is like Anaximander and Anaximene and Democritus and a lot of others like Protagoras or Heraclitus, just name a few famous ones. And the most important probably, when we come to the that period, is immediately after it. It's Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. So basically, people should remember the 3 giants in the philosophy in the beginning when philosophy starts. All right? Okay. That's how philosophy started. And after that, we have other schools like Neoplatonic, like Democritus, and about the atom theorists, and also Diogenes, skepticism, and the Stoics, things like that. That's a small schools of philosophy. We can just leave at that. Then we come to the Middle Ages. It's 1,000 years long, and the big guy comes up is Augustine. Okay, that's the guy who wrote the City of God and did a lot of philosophy and write Confession. And he is a very interesting guy. He studied the time. He has a lot of thoughts about arguments and things like that. And he started to defend God, to prove it, to prove its existence. And then next one we should consider the big guy is Aquinas, Thomas Aquinas. Of course, he's a bishop or some religious person, and he defended God too. And another one is Anselm, and big religious person too, and they all defended God. Actually, they formulated several proofs of God's existence, like ontological proof of God's existence, all started with them. Philosophically, they really set example how to prove things from the using sort of an axiom to go on to logically deduce things. So they set up example, although it's God as their purpose, but for other people, it's a sort of a way to argue things. So that's important part. All right. Okay. Then after that, we come to the door of modern eras, and in that, the French René Descartes are the big guy, and his idea of analysis of things gave the world a shock. Okay, he said, try to get things into chop it or cut it into manageable pieces, then solve it. It sounds like a simple idea, right? And nobody can figure it out at that time. Excuse me. And he also divided things, everything in the world, into two parts, right? Matter and physical matter, and a spiritual thing like a mental, as I write here. And the famous saying that I think, therefore I am. And because of his analysis and analytical method, I mean, and of course combined with physical things and everything developed physically, and along that line, like alchemy from Middle Ages, eventually evolved into science. Of course, since this is a water-shedding point from Descartes. Okay, so from that point on, just remember this: philosophy and science, natural science, started to separate. I'll consider philosophy gave birth to science. Philosophy is a mother. At that time, the pregnancy is over, so the child is delivered. That is science. It's that important, very crucial thing. All right. Okay. Here, next two parts, I did some modification. I mean, I divided using Instancology terms. I divided Descartes' idea into intellect and the mind, two parts. This division is, I consider, is very important. The thing is, okay, for example, for intellect, I divided into necessity and accidental. For the mind part, I divided it into action and feeling. Why I did it that way? Well, think about that. For necessity is a reason. For accidental is experience. All right. For reason, we can say from Spinoza onward, Leibniz later on, like other people, and we'll mention later, right? We can think along that line, come along. Okay. For experience, we can think about Locke, John Locke. We can think of Berkeley, right? We can think about Hume's, right? That's experience. All right. Okay. But the point is, they are intellect. They are intellectual studies. You have to use logic to do that part. All right. Here's the division. On the other hand, some philosophers started anti-revolution. I will call it that way. Like a Kierkegaard, like a Schopenhauer, like a Nietzsche. What they say, they basically saying what you guys are doing are not philosophy. All right? What we are doing is a philosophy. We started a life, like a Kierkegaard, the first one. People call him the father of existence. He says life should be life, not the dry logic. All right? And Nietzsche says life should be Superman. Man should define himself as above the herds. Herds don't always have the herd idea and make you like animals or something like that. Schopenhauer, basically the same idea, except that he is saying we should have will, we desire to change the world or something. But he is basically pessimistic about their life. But think about it this way. When I was a graduate studying philosophy, I sort of don't like the idea of these guys. I cannot figure out why the people put it into philosophy. I thought philosophy should be reasoning, should be experience, like the other guy did, like Leibniz or Spinoza did, or John Locke did, or Hume did, study reason and effects, cause and reason, things like that. So I cannot understand it. But now, now I understand it, because that's two parts of the absolute. Now later I tell you why it's divided like that. In Instancology, I just mentioned one word in advance, that there are two small absolutes. Each one of them take two sides. The intellect take two, reason, experience. The consciousness take will, desire, and the psychology in the life. I just want you to know that, and just remember that. Later on we will come to that part. All right, so from the 4 branches, we come down and to the 4 parts, all right? Okay, first let's talk about the consciousness side, okay? For this side, if you're just feeling like a Kierkegaard, either or, and the relationship with, I think the girl called Renee or something, Gina or Gina, I forgot. But anyway, about that side, if you just feel the passion about life, about God, Jesus Christ, okay, that part is life. You just feel it. Okay, it's a sort of a psychology thing. But if you think of that very strongly, you said it's a will. You said it's a desire, like Schopenhauer and Nietzsche said. That's action. So here the division is either you act, your motivation is so strong you want to act, or you're just passively sitting there, feel things, not reach that part of action. So that's a division about the mind. This is the two sides all summarized under the understanding, under the category of consciousness. Okay? That's just no logic, just go boom to wherever you go. Okay? You feel that's the meaning of life. But you have a reason. Later on I'll tell you. The other part is clear, as I said. It's old, most probably philosophers go that way. It's either experience or reason, and go down into either British, the three big philosophers, John Locke, Hume, Berkeley, or go to German, the Leibniz, Spinoza, this side, okay? All right, here is another thing. For the thoughts, reason come to thoughts. That's from Instancology, all right? So in the past, philosophers describe about reality. Think like a Plato. Think the world is a reflection of the reality reflected in form, or form versus reality. All right? Here in Instancology, I gave the idea of thoughts. So from people's head, coming out is thoughts, not directly bearing to reality. All right? And Instancology divides thoughts into 2 parts. One is a form, one is content. So I call it form instance or content existence. Under the content part, I should say Kant's idea, Hegel's idea, they are just the content of the form, the content of thoughts, like a political theory, ethics theory, economics theory. You can put it to this side too. But what is a form? The form is a part of the language, symbols, tools. They just handle content to deliver content. All right? So in this further division, I draw a line from Locke, Berkeley, Hume, down to logical positivism, the Vienna circle, then down. That circle combined with the form of thoughts become language analysis. That is championed by Wittgenstein or Bertrand Russell. So it comes to that part. All right? On the other hand, if you look at my graph, you can see from LBH come down to phenomenology. That's Husserl's part. Husserl. Okay? German philosopher Husserl. The Husserl part, phenomenology, also has another source coming from Hegel, from Kant, from Hegel. So phenomenology forms the pure experience. He said there are three schools eventually developed from phenomenology. But for Husserl, it's a pure experience. I should mention, in Plato, when Plato says form, the reality versus form, he means one single event, one single reality, like the blue of the sky or the blue of the jeans, joined the blue of the concept of blue or form of blue. But for Husserl, it's event. Let's say driving event. Everybody has a driving event. But what's the pure form of driving event? He wants that part. That's an event, to abstract this event of experience. Okay, that's a crucial part. All right. So, and furthermore, for existential phenomenology, that's Heidegger's part, and Sartre's part, right? That's come from either from Hegel, Kant, this side, and another source is from phenomenology, as I put here. And also they belong to content part, all right? And eventually that all goes back to instancology, all right? Language analysis goes there too, okay? They all become instants, but different instances. And I briefly mentioned in the past, and in future probably, if I have time, I'll explain more, all right? But here, eventually the big part is how does instancology connect philosophy, all right? When they all come to this part, it's a sort of like a summary. When we say instance, it's a summary of the definition, the function, everything included for philosophy, all right? And also, instancology basically divides the so-called ontology of instancology called absolutology. It has two parts. The two small absolutes, small, quote and unquote. One is consciousness, the other is the reason, all right? Then that landed with biological support in the brain, in the modern medical study of a human brain, the left side, the right side. If you study that, you can see they match perfectly, all right? This two small absolute eventually goes to the big absolute. That's the background, as I said before. So in this way, we complete the whole picture, all right? The whole thought, the civilization goes from philosophy to instancology. Okay, so that's basically the idea. I'm going to give you a brief introduction to it. All right? Thank you very much.